The Clippers are so far. New digs, new results for Golden State. They may have to get used to this, and it's not fun. Not good for the Warriors in their first game at the Chase Center. They got tuned up by Kawhi and company. Golden State allowed 141 points, the most it's allowed in 516 games under Steve Kerr, and the most allowed by any team in its first home game at a new arena, according to Elias. The Clippers shot over 62% from the floor, the worst mark the Warriors have allowed since 2010 when they were at the Spurs, and the worst mark they've allowed at home since 1991 against the Bucks. And the Clippers led the entire way. Just the Warriors' fourth wire-to-wire home loss under Kerr. 3 of those losses have happened since March. Draymond, Kerr, afterwards, not good.
I'm not a moral victory type of guy. I'm not leaving this game looking for something to build off on. We sucked, and we got to get better. I'm not a coach, so I'm not about to go watch a film and say, oh, well, we can build on this. I really don't give a damn about what we can build on. We sucked tonight, and we got to get better overall.
This is more the reality of the NBA than, the last 5 years we've been living in a world that isn't supposed to exist. We're starting over in many respects. I mean, this is not, not a one-off. This is the reality. There's going to be nights like this year, so you got to play through it, and you got to keep fighting and keep getting better, and that's the plan.
And Michael Wilbon joins us now in SportsCenter. Michael, you were at that game. You watched the Clippers dominate the Warriors last night. When it comes to judging the Warriors' performance after just one game, what did you see?
Well, the first thing I had to remember, Kevin, is how young they are. I'm going to make sure I don't miss any names here. They have so many guys that are young, like 23 and under. Marquise Chris, Amari Spellman, Eric Pascal, Kai Bowman, Jordan Poole. There's like 2 rookies and a second-year guy in there. They're not going to be familiar with the Warrior way. They aren't even going to know what it is yet. So, yeah, you do have 3 All-Stars out there, and Steph, Draymond, and D'Angelo Russell, who wasn't their All-Star, but an All-Star nonetheless. Looney was getting back in the lineup after having basically missed the whole preseason. And you realize that is going to have to be a work in progress, and I mean a work for a fairly long time. So I didn't think Steve Kerr was exaggerating at all when he says this is the new reality. He's got all those young players who are going to have to be worked in. You got a league of guys who want to get back at the Warriors for taking their lumps, for what, 5 seasons? Mm-hmm. So new reality indeed, and not a pleasant one, as Steve Kerr suggested on many nights this season.
Let's talk about the new reality in L.A., and that is Kawhi and the Clippers. They have looked strong in 2 games against the Lakers and the Warriors without Paul George. They hope to get him back sometime in November. What does that mean for everyone else in the league?
Doom. I mean, nobody wants to judge a season, Kevin, on 2 games, but when you've got Harkless and Lou Williams and JaMychal Green and Harrell, and you've got Patrick Patterson can come in and start games, and as you mentioned, their second best player they haven't even put in the lineup yet. Reggie Miller, after broadcasting last night's game, walked off the floor and he turned and said to me, "That's load management the old-fashioned way you earn it." And of course, he was talking about Kawhi Leonard playing 21 minutes, having 21 points, and then take the night off. Yep. Because we're so far up, you can have your load management tonight. And wow, the Clippers, they have become suddenly and instantly for this season must-see TV in the NBA.
And that's why Doc Rivers right now has a big smile on his face. The Clippers face the Suns tomorrow night. Michael Wilbon.
Basically, I'm going with the guys who I know I can win with.
Well, the guys he knows he can win with, not shockingly, when asked to pick from the all-time list ever, he starts with Scottie Pippen. He added in Magic Johnson, Worthy, Hakeem. Would you guys substitute Steph for anyone on this list?
You're not substituting anybody for Magic. He won 6 titles with Scottie. There was going to be somebody from North Carolina on that group. I mean, look, you could have thought Michael might have said Larry. I mean, another dream team, another dream team guy. Mm-hmm. And I know how much he respects Hakeem. So there's no real surprise, is there?
No, I don't see any surprises. I mean, I tell you, I got to get overlooked on this list a lot. It's James Worthy.
Yeah.
To me, James Worthy was one of the toughest guys that I had to defend. A great offensive player, great footwork, skills, could shoot the basketball. And I'm glad Michael put him on that list because he's definitely deserving. To me, one of the best power forwards in the game as far as being able to play the perimeter as well as in the paint.
I liked Michael sort of bringing this up only in that once you start crossing eras in the NBA, not that you're old, Wilbon. I mean,
Yes, I am. It's okay.
Ever young.
It's all right.
There is such recency bias, right? And
Yes.
now with the internet, we have huge recency bias. And yes, we have some all-time Hall of Fame players. Steph Curry is going to go down as not just a Hall of Famer, but the greatest shooter ever, right? But there is some recency bias on the guys who played the last 10 or 15 years, and guys that MJ and Scotty are talking about from their era and the era before that.
They get totally forgotten. They get totally overlooked. You know, there's some great players. Look, I always focus on the Dream Team alone. You could have Chris Mullin on there, right? I mean, Chris didn't have NBA championships, but obviously that's Michael wiped out. Michael and Scotty wiped out a whole generation of guys. Akeem won those 2 championships while Michael was away. Could have had Patrick Ewing on that list. You could have David Robinson. But the notion that you have to have somebody from the 21st century is flawed. You don't. No. And Michael was talking about guys. The question wasn't who are the 4 greatest people of all time. Who would you run with? Well, why wouldn't he run with the guys who wants to say no? You can't run with him. He didn't win enough on that list. Really? Was Akeem got the fewest number of championships on that list with 2? I mean, you know, people need to not be prisoners of this moment.
Right. Well, you know, I said last time Michael and Scotty played together, it went okay. Just went okay. I want to get back to the Milwaukee Bucks-Rockets game last night. It was the first time we got to see James Harden and Russell Westbrook playing together in Houston, and that's been a big topic of conversation between the 3 of us. We want to bring it to TV now. Russ's first bucket as a Rocket was banked in 3-pointer, which was kind of poetic, right? We also saw a heated exchange between Russ and James on the sidelines later in the first quarter. Now, afterward, both guys said, we already warned you this is going to happen on the court. It doesn't mean there's a division between us. This is how we talk about basketball. We've been friends since we were kids. Do you think it's a big deal?
I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, you're looking at 2 alpha players, 2 guys who are used to taking the final shots and taking the majority of the shots. And there's going to be times out there, especially now that they're not familiar with playing with each other, that they're going to have some confrontations. And again, you're going to see this a lot throughout the season. We saw it with Harden and Chris Paul in the past. And, you know, James Harden is trying to make his statement that, hey, this is my team and I'm going to do it this way. But then Westbrook has to figure out, how do I fit in? This is a part of basketball, and it's part of winning and losing. It's the competitive fire. It's when you're tired and the adrenaline is running and you haul off and you say something to your teammates that you really don't mean in the way that it came out, but it's just a part of getting better.
Do you think this can work, their thing? The 2 of them can? I mean, when I say work, the only thing the Rockets are playing for now is a championship. They've done everything else. Can this work to the championship level? I
think it can work. I think they will continue to figure out how Russ can fit in. Harden don't have a problem fitting in. It's about Russ. It's about how do we get this thrust out of Russ and make it productive for us night in and night out. James Harden is going to be our half-court guy. He's going to help us to execute, and he's going to be our go-to guy. But that's not fitting for a guy like Russell Westbrook when James Harden has the ball, because he's not a spot-up shooter. And we've seen last year how he almost went into the tank trying to shoot the 3 ball. I dealt with that situation going to Houston the year that I went there. They wanted me to be a 3-point shooter and watch Hakeem and Charles post up. And I was never familiar with or comfortable playing that role of being a spot-up 3-point shooter. And that was part of one of my reasons why I didn't fit in with the Houston Rockets. But Russ has an opportunity to do something differently. And if he can keep the thrust going, that's something that he's giving them an advantage.
Yeah, and such an interesting thing that you isolate that, because that is exactly what Mike D'Antoni has been talking about in the last 24 hours. One thing he talked about was Russ's speed. He's like, 6 seconds or less, baby. We're going to use him to push up the pace. And there's a time in the life of this contract that Houston has with Russell Westbrook. His athleticism will not be what it is now or what it has been. That is just the nature of this deal and how long it ranges. So use it now.
I mean, knee surgeries he's had already.
Now, but he's still got it now.
He does, but when you have that many knee surgeries, I mean, you know that it takes a toll on you. Age, wear, tear, as we get to the point with even the greatest players. And Russell Westbrook will go down already, if he doesn't play another moment, as one of the great players in NBA history. But, man, I mean, when your legs have that kind of wear and tear, can you do that? It's not whether you can do it in November. Can you do it in May and June when you have to play that way against a younger team, a team with defense like the Los Angeles Clippers. Can you do it then?
Everybody is going to be measured against that defense. We're going to talk a little bit more about all this stuff in the next segment. So right now, just head over to the ESPN app. You can find out which version of LeBron is the best version of LeBron. It's like a little thing you can play and scoot around. There's plenty of great options from LeBron's 17-year career. Producer Steve says it's 2011 Heat LeBron, so you all can argue with him. And again, we got a lot more with Wilbon and Pippen after this break, so just hang out.
Love it.
He's been great.
I'm on board.
Fun. It's great to have him in the league, right, Scotty?
It's great to have him. I mean, he's impressive to watch him shoot the basketball.
He shot one from the logo last night.
Did the Hawks win last night, by the way?
They did, actually,
okay.
by more than they were supposed to. Just saying. Brian predicted that, too.
range.
Make, grip. Check out Kawhi pulling up. Does a little one-handed pump fake here. Scotty, I believe we've seen this before with a teammate of yours.
Yes, I've seen that a few times.
And there we go. I know later in his executive years, Michael Jordan, after he felt like he failed in drafting Kwame Brown, said from then on there was no basketball player he was ever going to take on one of his teams that couldn't palm a basketball. It would be the thing that would be the dividing line.
Well, Kawhi can palm it with probably 2 hands, or 2 fingers.
Right. Two
So for them,
basketballs. That's right.
Yeah, he carried the ball around like a satchel.
Miss Subtlety. So the Rockets have rolled out a red carpet, literally, for their player arrivals, with the photographers, the whole thing. ESPN reporter Stefano Fusaro says it's for the first 3 games, but then it will be throughout the season on weekend games. Should it be at every game if you have Russell Westbrook on your team, Brian?
Well, I guess Russ and James can do whatever they want. I like the red
There's
carpet.
a song about that.
I like the red carpet. I don't know if we need a DJ. I mean, it's doing too much.
Scotty, can you imagine this getting to this level back in your day?
That is crazy.
I would like to know what Patrick Ewing would have done with this.
How about Rodman? Oh my God.
Well, he would have been fine.
He'd have come in a wedding
Tributes. Mo Harkless throwing down a pair of dunks yesterday, and he paid tribute. Little head tap Clippers. Brian, you think he's going to catch on with this year's Clipper team?
I would advise it not to. Now, I covered Darius. I like Darius. I like Quentin, but they call themselves the Knuckleheads for a reason on their podcast. Let's leave that in the 2000 era. That's my advice.
What do you think, Scotty?
I'm going to have to go with Brian on this. Let's leave that one behind. And,
Move forward.
Let's move forward. We're trying to win the title now.
Different
We're not going to be
Clippers
knuckleheads.
team. Clippers have enough slogans and stuff going on as it is. Miss boxing out. John Collins cleans up the miss with the 2-handed flush. He is so fun to watch. And we thought this was a little Blake Griffin, right? That
Look
he
how
was
high he
here.
is.
While Blake Griffin was watching him, you see? These jump producers, they've got layers, right? Boom. Remember that?
Yeah. Unfortunately, John, when he tried to jump over the plane.
Y'all are so mean.
But
You don't have to freeze
I
frame it.
love John Collins and I love the Hawks. I don't know if you heard me say that. If you want to get ahead of the game,
it's usually me who brings up the airplane.
guess
and
what?
then
I
says,
will
"But
buy
we
your
love him."
Hawks stock if you want to sell it.
Man, that dunk was
I like that. That's a great
phenomenal. Phenomenal. All right, we now have to turn our attention to one of our favorite shows within a show here at The Jump.
Oh.
Because there was an emergency episode of Sons of Anarchy that dropped unexpectedly yesterday. And look, it began with the stars of this show riding high like they hadn't felt in an untold number of years. The Suns people sat atop the West after opening night following their win, their 29-point differential. It was amazing. The series looked like it was going to take off. And then it all came crashing down as day turned into night because center DeAndre Ayton, it was revealed, had been suspended for 25 games for violating the NBA's anti-drug policy. Ayton tested positive for a diuretic, which can act as a masking agent for banned PEDs. Now, Ayton apologized in a statement saying that he had ingested something unintentionally. The Players Union plans to appeal the suspension. They believe the penalty could be reduced, rescinded even. Ayton did reportedly attend the Suns shoot-around today. But, guys, it's unclear when he would next get the chance to play. So, Brian, I know you were watching the story unfold last night. What do we expect from here?
I expect him to play December 17th at the end of his 25-game suspension. The Suns put out a statement which left no ambiguity. They basically said it was unacceptable and it did, to me, sound like they accepted his explanation. They were very, very disappointed in him, especially because They are finally looking like they may have been getting some traction. Monty Williams in his first